It's been a while, hasn't it? So, before we actually do this, I need to say a couple things. So, first of all, thank you to all of you who have been watching this series. It's been one of the most popular series of videos that I have ever done on my channel. In fact, the video on the Trial of Valor raid is now my most viewed video ever on my channel. So, thank you for the viewership of these and a lot of the positive feedback that I've gotten from these. Although there has also been some negative feedback, and that's one of the things I want to address before we continue. If you were here to see me just simply go through these raids and not talk about anything, or just not talk at all, you're at the wrong channel. I want to make that clear, because I was getting complaints, especially in the Trial of Valor video, that I was spending time talking and not actually just showcasing the fights, which is not always the case. And that's not also one of the intentions behind these videos. One of the things that I love to do about these videos is to actually talk about things that some people may not know, because a lot of people, when it comes to this game, don't know what's going on or why things are happening, because a lot of them just don't care. I've seen surveys where more than half the people who play this game never read a single quest, because all they do is just skip all the text quests and just turn their brain off and play the game. I'm sorry if that sounds a little mean or harsh, but that's just my perception of what people are doing when it comes to actually, like, trying to see what's going on. Apparently some people just don't care or don't have any interest. They're just wanting to play the game instead of actually, like, knowing any context about what's actually happening, you know? And I like to add more. I like to go ahead and provide that if I can. If I know some things, or if I learn about some things, extra stuff in the background, little tidbits here and there, I want to share those things, you know? Like, for example, we're not going to be doing this raid on the Alliance side because there's no reason to. We are going to be doing at least one raid in this expansion on both factions because of how different the raid is based on what faction you play. What I discovered when I was questing through the Alliance side is that they have no presence whatsoever when it comes to Uldir. Uldir never comes up once if you play as Alliance. It, of course, is a quest on the Horde side, because we actually get a quest from Vol'jin saying, "Hey, man, I want you to take my weapon, then bathe it in Gahun's blood." Meanwhile, the Alliance gets nothing. So, if we were to talk about this from an in-lore perspective, the Horde goes into Uldir and takes down Gahun. The Alliance does not help at all, because there's no indication whatsoever that the Alliance did a single thing about Gahun. I don't think Gahun ever came up once when I was playing as Alliance. So even though Alliance players can do the Uldir Raid, there's no, like, actual story reason why the Alliance would ever have even been there. So, that's one of those little bits there. Now, of course, I have to showcase BOD on both factions. As far as the other raids, I don't think there's a reason to do that. Like, there's a tiny reason to do Silver Eternal Palace, but there's really not much of a big reason. You're basically going through with either Thalysra as Horde, or Shalandris as Alliance. Oh, did I say her name wrong? Tyranda's daughter. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on her name at the moment. But you guys know what I'm talking about. Because the two of them have connections to Ajara. So that's why, depending on your faction, you go through the raid with them. But that's really the only difference. Whereas BOD, there's a number of differences. Especially when you start the raid, which is why I'll be showing that raid twice. But all the other ones, I'll just probably be going ahead and showing once, because there's really not much of a difference. But I'm specifically doing Uldir on Horde because there was literally no indication that the Alliance ever did anything about Uldir. Now, that thing would not normally be there if we were going in here after all the story, because while there isn't much of a trailer for this, You get enough of an idea as to what is going on and why we're here after you do the 3 zones here. Because, again, the storytelling for the Horde side of things tells why we're here. In Vol'dun, we find out about Mythrax. In Nazmir, we learn about Gahun. And in Zuldazar is where we deal with Zul. You know? Whereas... the thing is, I'm also not doing as much fanfare, as you can tell. I'm not showing any trailers here for this first part because I did that quite a bit for Legion because Legion is my favorite expansion, and I was hyped for it, and I wanted to get you guys hyped for it as well. There was a lot I wanted to share with those Legion raids. The BFA raids... So, here's the thing. BFA is a massive mixed bag for me. There's a lot I have gripes with when it comes to BFA, especially when it comes to the faction conflict story. Like the war campaign of BFA, I couldn't stand. It was aggravating me throughout the entire time I was playing it. But there's also a number of other things I did like some of the individual zone stories, you know? And the thing is also, BFA was a big turning point for me as a player in WoW. Because early on, I was mainly just still doing my own kind of thing, questing around. And then it wasn't until later on, in the Ny'alotha tier, that I actually, by chance, got pulled into some high-level content with my Alliance Guild. And that basically was a big turning point, because then, from that point on, they introduced me to a lot of the high-level content. They introduced me to Mythic Plus. They introduced me to Heroic and even Mythic raiding. I got to become a Mythic Raider during that time. We only took down 4 bosses in Ny'alotha, but still, we took down 4 Mythic bosses in a current tier raid, which I think was a pretty cool thing. It was a cool experience. And it was also the first time I got to experience what progression Heroic raiding is like. And pushing high-level Mythic Plus keys. You know, let's also remember the pandemic happened during BFA. So many of us had a lot more time to play BFA during that tier because we had to stay home. So, yeah. So while I have gripes with BFA, at the same time, I have some fond memories from BFA because it provided a lot of those memories for me that have kind of affected me as a WoW player to this day. You know, there was a lot of things that happened for me on both sides that have had an impact. So I don't have as much, hype for BFA, the BFA raids, but I know some of you have been waiting for this, and I do appreciate that. Like, some of you, when you saw the Antorus one, you were then asking me, when are you going to do the BFA raids? And I kept saying, well, until Blizzard does things to make it more soloable. Because for a long time, there were mechanics in place where it was almost impossible to solo these. The first time I tried soloing this, Zul just made me jump off the edge and die. So at that point, I went, well, I can't solo these because there are things in place that make it basically impossible. And a number of you have also watched the Trials of Alborn because I understand why a lot of you have an issue with that. And I have not tried that raid with other classes to see how to get around the first 2 to get to Odin. Mainly because I just never really felt the need to go back with those other classes because there's really not much reward-wise to go back there for, since you could get some of those rewards on specific classes, but for armor types. But at the same time, I just personally don't really like some of the rewards from this raid anyway, like the sets and such. I think they're just kind of compared to some of the other raids in this group. Like, I would much rather go back to any of these 4 raids instead of Trial of Valor. But that's just me. I also find that they have much more interesting, unique, cool rewards that you can get from those. But anyways, we're not here to talk about Legion. We, of course, are here now to talk about Battle for Azeroth. And, oh boy. Now, I don't really have much to share experience gameplay-wise for these until we get to Ny'alotha, because, like I said, that's when I started to become an actual raider, and I can actually share my experience of what it was like experiencing that raid from a heroic progression and even mythic progression standpoint. I'll have plenty to talk about when it comes to the lore and story for these as we go through. And yes, I'll even be doing the Crucible of Storms because of how important it is. If you want to see the quest that's tied to that, I actually did. I mean, I guess I could technically, if I want to, on this character, because I don't think she ever did that quest. There should be a quest here in Zandalar, to where there's like an invasion happening, where you can go get the pearl, which is what gives you the item to find the dagger, which leads you to this raid. Which, of course, also sets up what happens in the War Within, because we find Xal'atath. But it looks like it's actually not up right now. It's a specific world quest you have to go do in order to be able to have it drop, which will lead you to that. But I don't remember if this character ever did that quest. But anyways. We're also going to be doing this just on normal. I have not tested if I can solo these on Mythic. I've heard you can. In fact, I heard they made changes and adjustments to make it soloable on Mythic. I just haven't tried yet. So, welcome to Uldir. Millennia ago, seeking to understand the nature of their eternal foe, the Titans constructed their sprawling underground facility to research and quarantine captured specimens. They hoped that by studying the void energy that bound the old gods, probing it for weaknesses and reactions, they could find some way to neutralize it. They were horribly, horribly wrong. The facility was sealed away so that the horrors within would never be unleashed upon Azeroth. But now, those seals have been broken. Courtesy of Zul, one of his loyal followers, which also unleashed Mythrax, and of course the areas, the people, the blood trolls in this zone, helping try to get Ga'Hoon going. That was one of the reasons why of what was happening in the dungeon, the Underrot, was important, because they were basically trying to use this to help get Ga'Hoon going and free, which is why we are now here. Now, if you're here as Alliance, you're here with Braun instead of Talanji, but like I said, there was not a single quest that I experienced on the Alliance side that was like, hey, we need to go to Uldir. Not once. It never once came up. It came up plenty on the Horde side, but not the Alliance side. So that's why it's more fitting to be here with Talanji, since, of course, we quested throughout Nazmir dealing with the Blood Trolls with Talanji.
Best goods in the Empire.
Make sure my stuff is repaired for this. Hey, Talanji.
Taloc survived the Amot strike? We cannot let this monstrosity stand between us and Ga'Hoon.
The Titan Keepers enacted countless systems to detect and contain any breach from the facility. Their most powerful construct, Taloc, kept watch for any signs of corruption in the region and ruthlessly excised any that he found. But as thousands of years passed, its internal defenses began to decay, making it vulnerable to corruption. As you can see, yeah. So, in the past, this boss has actually had an issue with possibly bugging out. And if it does, there is a way for me to get around it, because I experienced it one time. So we shall see. But once you attack these, you're basically going to be able to go ahead and start set up the boss.
Hosts detected. Infection commencing. Initiating blood dispersal of target host.
Bloodstorm.
Fluid evacuation. Fuel levels depleted. Shutting down.
Well, it did start the elevator. So I think the last time I did this, I killed him so fast the elevator never started. But you can just go ahead and interact with that little teleportation pad back there, and it'll send you down to the next level. So I think I just have to literally wait for this elevator to reach the bomb. Or then again, I mean, I am a demon hunter, so whee! And then glide down. But yeah, you can just interact with the teleporter right there, and I'll bring you back down here.
It's too far away.
So I think Talanji's supposed to say something like, I need time to work on this to open the door. And when I hit that pad, that's when these things show up. Which, of course, you probably recognize them from the dungeon, right?
I need to get closer.
Virulent specimen removed. Opening decontamination chamber.
What was that voice?
I am the Matron of Tenacity, Herald of Endless Research. Designation, Mother.
She must be the reason the corruption has not completely overtaken this facility.
Alert. Contaminated life forms detected. Incinerators engaged.
The doors are locked. Shut down that machine before we are reduced to ash.
Yeah, obvious. So, Mother is actually going to become a pretty relevant part of the expansion going forward.
Cleansing purge.
Strain detected. Neutralized with extreme prejudice.
Satisfaction.
So this fight can be a little nuts. You're probably going, wait a minute, you can go through that field? Yep, it's kind of important.
To extreme heat.
Remember, she's trying to turn on these incinerators to basically burn us. And it's part of the fight.
Containment chamber.
Because, oh gosh, it's pulling me in! It's like Toy Story 3!
System restored. Levels return to secure threshold.
Notice she only went down to 10%, although I got her down to 1 health.
What is this place?
Designation, Uldir. This research facility was designed to contain and study the entity known as Ga'Hoon.
You have been keeping that abomination alive? Why?
Collection of data is imperative to combating the old gods. Ga'Hoon's unique biology potentially holds the answer to eliminating their threat.
And have you found the answer?
Negative. Data inconclusive. Alternative research trials are being developed and are scheduled to be deployed in 2,364 cycles.
We do not have that kind of time. Ga'Hoon must be stopped now.
In order to destroy the specimen, you must reactivate the vault consoles located throughout the swing. Activating all consoles will grant access to Ga'Hoon's vault, where the specimen may be purged by activating the re-origination drive.
We have a plan. Activate the consoles and put an end to Ga'Hoon's plague once and for all.
So, I forgot to read Mother's lore, sorry about that. Uldir's Titanic Watcher was gifted with tenacity and an insatiable desire to discover a solution to the old gods. Her protocols have remained fully intact, even though many other systems in her facility have collapsed. Warning, Mother will not accept aid from contaminated subjects. Although now she's green, so like I said, she'll become an ally for us throughout the rest of the expansion. She'll even be with us, helping us out right up to the very end against N'Zoth, or Unzoth, depending on how you want to say it. In fact, there's now another version of her that just showed up right there. So yeah, we can't even see the depths, but we can see the corruption in the very bottom parts. But throughout the rest, you can see, like, very reminiscent of some of the other Titan facilities that we have encountered over time, like the Halls of Origination, Uldir. I like some of the, like, mix of the Titan structure along with corruption, and even like some of the, there's like a full-on waterfall over there, like it's Niagara Falls. Very huge facility. You're probably going, what's that in the middle? You'll find out. It's also worth noting that some of the dungeons, not just like Underrot, but also like King's Rest, also kind of does a bit of extra storytelling leading into this raid, especially when it comes to Zool.
It's too far away. I'm out of range.
So you see lots of blood trolls are here because, of course, they are here to, you know, help make sure that Ga'Hoon rises. He is their god.
I can't do that yet.
So we now have to go to these 3 different areas that have 3 different consoles for us to activate, and, well, let's just say we have to deal with something that's kind of in the way in order to be able to even reach Ga'Hoon. Now, Ga'Hoon, they imply that he is another old god, though the thing is
this creature? It appears as if it were once a Loa.
Observation accurate. This facility has run numerous experiments on Loa to research solutions for old god corruption. Tests focused on the ability of Ga'Hoon's corruption to reanimate expired tissue. Results were inconclusive, and specimens were destroyed.
You seem to have missed one.
Now, you may hear that and think, oh goodness, that sounds horrible. Need I remind you, these are the Titans we're talking about. They don't exactly care. You know, very, you know, if you know anything about how the Titans think or how they perceive things, this actually makes a lot of sense that they would go ahead and do that. Though, again, why they apparently decided not to eliminate this one, unless they were still running experiments on it, I don't know. But, yeah. Quite the deformed, like, Hydra Chimera type of crazy-looking thing there, isn't it? The experiments within Uldir conducted tests upon countless life forms, including several Loa who inhabited the forests around Zandalar. After the experiments proved lethal, the Loa's remains were disposed of improperly, much to the delight of the Dark Consciousness imprisoned within Uldir. So yeah, apparently this thing were Loa that were experimented on and then destroyed and discarded, which then was corrupted and turned into those things. Because I'm not just talking about the Devourer there. Look at the things on the side. A malformed lion, a malformed vulture, a malformed raptor. All these things. This was a bit of a nasty fight back then, from what I recall. Notice his Berserk timer is only 5 minutes. Yeah, this was not a pleasant fight to deal with.
Fetid Frenzy.
So yeah, he keeps putting that dot on you. So it's a little hard to, oh hey! I actually finished the set. Yo! Oh, I also got this cleaver. Nice. But I finished one of the sets from Uldir, and I got the achievement for it. New Mog, Ga'Hoon this.
First console activated. Re-establishing energy matrix.
Oh, Mother does it for me. I thought I had to go click on the console. It's been a while. But see, now they become malformed creations, and they turn back into those things. Usually you were supposed to... So what people would do, they would pull and reset the boss, and they would grab the trash and then just try to clear out the trash without pulling the boss, because they didn't want to deal with the trash and the boss. Pulling and resetting a boss to try and deal with something else is actually a very common thing. It's something we've done with other raids, even in Dragonflight. Such as... in Aberrus, we usually just pull and reset Magmarax just to reset where he's going to be in the room.
I need to get closer. It's too far away. I need to get closer. I'm out of range.
So I actually finished one of those BFA sets, finally. So, next...
Now entering the viral ecology wing. This laboratory contains thousands of the most dangerous viral strains in the known cosmos, alphabetically sorted for ease of access. Alert! Viral containment breached. Contaminated specimen approaching. Risk of infection imminent.
So yeah, this is where we start to encounter even more of the contaminated, corrupted servants of Ga'Hoon, as well as N'Zoth, as you will see in the next room. This is Vectus. The plague of corrupted blood killed countless trolls and began one of the most terrifying periods in Zandalar's history. The constructs within Uldir studied the disease in search of a cure, but found that only isolation and extermination was effective. Unfortunately, as the facility's safeguards cracked apart, the plague was accidentally combined with a sample of Ga'Hoon's blood, creating a new entity that hungered for fresh victims. So, yeah. So, from what I recall, Vectus would cause a number of issues when it came to healing in this fight, such as the plague amalgams basically giving your healers a difficult time when it came to actually like trying to heal the group, if I recall, if that's how it worked.
I need to get closer.
But I will admit, I missed out on actual Uldir progression, because like I said, I didn't become a progression raider until Night Lotha. The only time I really experienced this raid was through LFR. So I never got to experience what it was like back in the day on normal and such.
I'm out of range.
Consume husks!
Omega Vector.
So yeah, that would expire and then jump to the next closest player.
Violent gestation!
So yeah, it puts that, it stuns you.
Oppression. Contagion.
Outbreak inevitable!
If that thing had made it past us, it would have infected all life on the surface.
So yeah, we're effectively
Activated. Facility safeguards rebooting.
not just preventing Ga'Hoon from escaping this place, but the other things that are here as well. And one of the reasons why I'm bringing that up is because I mentioned how the Alliance basically did nothing for this, or at least that's the indication that they did nothing. And one of the reasons why I say that
That ability
is because if, say, what happens here in Uldir was really that much of a horrible, dire situation, then the Horde really helped out Azeroth dealing with what was going on here, whereas the Alliance, I mean, maybe they just had no idea, but still, they could have, especially when, as an Alliance player, if you come here, Braun is here, so Braun could have been like, oh my goodness, there's this place called Uldir, and there's this old god named Ga'Hoon, we should send some heroes of the Alliance to go deal with it. Just saying.
Now entering the data vaults. This is a comprehensive collection of Titan knowledge. These disks currently contain 50 megabytes of biological data on known life forms throughout the cosmos. 75 megabytes of every existing chemical compound. and 500 billion megabytes of images portraying adorable feelings.
So, my question, Mother, is how much is a Norgabyte? Like, how much bigger is a Norgabyte compared to, say, a terabyte? Like, I'm just saying. I'm just curious. I'm sure a number of other PC people are also very curious. So yeah, even more Old God beings here. Silithid, Forgotten Ones, a Cathraxi, and this guy. Zek'voz, the Herald of N'Zoth. Shortly after the Sundering, a dark messenger arrived on the fresh shores of Zandalar, intending to bring the newly isolated tribe into the service of N'Zoth. Zek'voz was prepared to entice, bribe, cajole, corrupt, or simply kill them. But he was not prepared to encounter the defenses of Uldir, where he was captured, studied, disassembled, and stored in the Titan's archives, where he has waited for a chance to escape. So what he actually said was, lesser creatures must serve or die.
Void Lash.
So yeah, he does that. Obviously that would have hurt.
Void Lash. Surging Darkness.
You will be eradicated!
Just using melee to kind of show off the fight a bit. So yeah, now that puts Shatter on you, which increases the amount of physical damage you take by 50%.
Detected unsafe levels of void.
How is this possible? Oh, I'm sorry. So here's the thing. I've had it for a long time to be able to...
Drive restored. Vault access granted.
There's an option that lets you skip the cutscenes. I have tried to make sure it doesn't do that. And yet it still does it. Which is annoying. So what you missed there was basically because we now have the 3 consoles, the middle of the area now opens up. So now the stairs have, appeared for all 3 sides to open up for us to go to the middle area. That's basically what that cutscene would have shown just now. Again, in the past, I have tried to turn off that option to skip the cutscenes automatically, and it just seems to not want to do it. Which is frustrating. It really gets to the point where I want to make sure I turn DBM off. Because, again, I'm trying to, have it not do that. It's an option. I know it's an option. But for some reason, even in the past when I've turned it off, it still does it. And it's like the only time I feel like I can actually make sure it doesn't skip those cutscenes is to literally turn DBM off. So I may have to do that when we do the other raids in the series. So yeah, lots of these guys here. So yeah, as you can imagine, lots of supporters you gotta make sure you take out, but
Far away.
you're also spreading lots of blood. Of course, this isn't Diablo 4 where, blood is the key.
can't do that yet. I need to get closer. That ability isn't ready yet.
In case you're wondering why I'm so easily one-shotting these things, I'm 5'16". Actually, I'm closer to 5'17", but...
Not ready yet.
Zul! How is he alive? I saw him die by my father's hand.
Analysis indicates high levels of corruption. Hypothesis. Gahoon reanimated this specimen and enhanced it. Further testing required.
It does not matter how he returned. My knife will send him back to the abyss.
Actually, Talanji, I'm pretty sure it's going to be my sword that does that. Once the proud leader of the Zankuli Council, highest advisors to the kings of Zandalar, Zul was praised as the greatest of prophets. Now, the Dark Prophet has turned on King Rastakhan and would see a true troll empire rule the world once again, even if it means submitting to the blood god, Gahoon. So you can even see a different appearance here for Zul. A little bit more red in his appearance. There's a number of Krogs here. We've got Nazmani Blood Hexer and a Crusher. But yeah, you can see, like, even look at Zul's, like, eyes here. A lot more red in his appearance here. Being literally reborn by Gahoon.
Everything is as I have foreseen!
Is that so, Zul?
Wait! This was not the future I was promised.
Sorry, let's just say I didn't want to risk.
Significant threat of contamination beyond this point. Quarantine protocols prevent me from proceeding.
The rest is up to us. We will put an end to Gahoon's disease.
The thing about, like I said, the first time I came in here and he just did that thing where he does a mind control mechanic. It's called Death Wish. They're right here. He fills a player with a Death Wish, causing them to walk towards the edge of the arena and jump off the platform to their death upon reaching it. When the player jumps or when Death Wish is dispelled, Death Wish will inflict damage to all players. So, yeah, also it creates minions of Zul. So, you had to rely on somebody dispelling that on you to save you. Otherwise, you just jumped off to your death. So, it used to be that it would trigger, and you was like, well, I can't soul this if that's going to happen every time. Of course, I didn't have the damage at the time to just melt him super fast. But, yeah, I wouldn't say... I don't recall if this was considered a tough fight back in the day. But, yeah. Now, the next couple of fights, whew, that's different. And there is Mythrax the Unraveler. Mythrax the Unraveler. Bringer of Oblivion, Slayer of Sethralus. With his mission complete, he returns to his master's side to await further instruction. This is a full-on Cathraxi. And the only reason we're able to take him down is if we were in an actual raid group here. Because Cathraxi, when they're at full strength, are really, really mean. But this guy was also a bit of a nasty fight back in the day, especially on Mythic. I've come in here on groups to do Mythic Mog runs, and it was still pretty nasty to deal with. Because, of course, he had a mind control mechanic. He also had this thing called Obliteration Beam, which would just, you know, yeah. But he would also reduce their health, and he definitely had a mind control mechanic, from what I'm trying to, yeah. So, Oblivion Sphere. He would summon a sphere near a player. The sphere would charm all players within 5 yards. While they were charmed, the sphere would apply Annihilation every 2 seconds. Players would remain under the sphere's control until they are knocked out of the sphere's area of influence. Attacking players under the effect would knock them back slightly. And when they were freed, they would cause Crashing Oblivion, which would do a lot of shadow damage to all players when the player was freed. So, as you can imagine, this was kind of a really mean fight, especially on higher difficulties. And the thing is, you can't jump down here and prepare. Once you jump down, the fight starts. He aggroes you. So you basically had to prepare right here, and then jump down. And then he would aggro to you right away. I'm curious how much of this fight I can actually show off here.
Obliteration.
He actually is hurt. This is only normal, but like I said, he, you see those spheres? Yeah. So yeah, he's still pretty nasty to deal with, which is why I'm probably just going to go ahead now, you know, kill him.
Obliteration blast. Imminent ruin. Zalzaya is awakening.
Oh, okay. Got that cool looking sword, nice.
That was for bringing destruction to Devourer, you vile creature.
And you know, he could have been prevented from being brought back had we just simply not, you know, taken the time to talk in Vol'dun and just simply, you know, killed the guy who freed him. But, whatever. So now comes the really gross, nasty part. Now, of course, you can still see parts of the Titan facility throughout there, like those, you know, things right there. Amidst all this corruption, and boy, is it gross and nasty.
The reorigination drive is ready. Now it is left to us to end Gahun's plague once and for all.
The seals are broken. The end is here. Come and be the first to receive my gift. You will carry my pestilence, and a vast, bubbling, putrid cyst will cover the world.
So, I don't think we've ever gotten a full confirmation on whether or not Gahun was actually a full-on old god or not. I don't think he is. I think he is something kind of below, like, the old gods. Like, I don't think Gahun is on the same level as, say, N'Zoth or any of the other old gods. But, I mean, he's not a pushover, but he doesn't feel the same in terms of power level like they do. In Uldir, the Titans had hoped to find a solution to the old gods. But when they experimented upon the old gods' unending ravenous need to corrupt, they unexpectedly created a perfect avatar of that desire. Gahun is nothing but rot, pestilence, and decay. The ultimate parasite who cannot stop himself from consuming his host until it is gone. So, in that case, I would rather make the comparison that he's a bit more like, I don't know, Nurgle in Warhammer, or maybe even more so like the Horned Rat, because at least Nurgle wants to decay but then have stuff brought back to life because he believes in like the cycle of life and rebirth after decaying and rotting, whereas the Horned Rat just wants everything to be decayed and brought to ruin, and then he rules over all ruin. So, yeah. Unless Gahun was like, then you will be reborn from the rot and such, then I would compare more to Nurgle, but I think it's a little different. I don't think he has the same goals and desires that Nurgle does. But yeah, he is in there. So we don't actually fight him right off the bat. You'll actually notice those things over there on the sides. So this fight can get crazy. Now, if you want to see what it was like back then, I've actually done a video where I was on my Resto Shaman. I did this on LFR. And whoo boy. The amount of rot damage that's in this fight is nuts. As a healer, this was stressful. This was the expansion that made me say I'm not healing anymore when it comes to raids and such. Because, geez Louise, the amount of damage in this fight alone was stressful. With all the ads that pop up, like the terrors and such, and then you then have to do this kind of like hot potato game where you're having to toss an orb from player to player in between all these things, which slow you down immensely, to this thing over here in order to free Gahoon. Once you free Gahoon, you can basically just kind of like focus on him, but until then, you can't really do that. You'll also notice that right now he has something called a blood shield, where he heals 5% of his max life every half a second. So there's literally no point in fighting him right now. You have to get him out of there in order to actually kill him, because otherwise he'll just continue to heal no matter what. You'll also notice the teleporter there for when we wipe and run back. Now, before they made the changes, this was kind of insane to do, but since then it actually doesn't seem to be that bad.
The outbreak has begun.
Explosive corruption.
So you'll have those things, more ads will pop up and focus you. So you'll see this here, a power matrix. Now, they've changed it where now you can actually just go ahead and grab this and actually just kind of move with it.
Power matrix
Undulating mass.
available.
Undulating mass.
Servants of Rot,
Undulating mass.
It used to be you couldn't jump with this or move like this with it, but now you can actually go ahead and do that solo-wise.
Undulating.
Like, I couldn't do this back then. You had to pass this, use this to throw it to another player in order to have them move ahead and catch it. They had to catch it and then bring it over here.
Section 18. Blast.
Origination blast imminent.
And you'll see
Clear the area.
they've changed a lot of how this works, because then it activates this and it's going to burn all the ads in this area. So you also didn't want the raid here so that they didn't get hurt by this thing, which is also going to help free Gahoon from that. Boy, is he gross. But you would have to do that whole power matrix thing multiple times to free him.
Explosive corruption.
Man, oh man, is he disgusting.
Lighted ground. Wave of corruption.
So yeah, he would fit right in with
Lighted
Nurgle.
ground.
I'm sure Nurgle would love this thing.
Explosive corruption.
Yeah, those things, oh man. Like I said, you then see these puddles are constantly made. Doing this fight as a healer was, oh. Like, I'm sure I've got some guildmates that are main healers that they would be like, it wasn't that bad. But for me, that does not really enjoy healing, yeah, no, it was kind of stressful. So yeah, you get Blood Feast or you immobilize.
Explosive corruption.
And that spawns ads, yeah.
Lighted ground.
Bit of a nasty fight.
Lighted ground. Explosive corruption.
The contagion has taken root within you.
Subject Gahoon terminated. No viable samples remaining. Corruption falling to safe levels. System integrity restored.
Got a long mouth there like a xenomorph from Alien. Blech, 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 blech. So yeah, the Titans made this. Oh, man. So anyways. Yeah. So the Horde comes in here and makes sure that this thing does not get free. Because if it had, oh boy. So while the Horde, while of course dealing with this, the Alliance were planning to attend Zuldazar. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. I get a little dyslexic sometimes. The Alliance was planning to attack Zuldazar, which led us into the events of Battle of Dazar'alor. And I'm actually debating which side I want to show first. If you're watching this in the playlist, it'll probably affect which one you see next. I guess what we could do is what we're first going to do... Actually, I think we're going to go ahead and do it the way I originally experienced it. Which was, we're going to do it on the Horde side first to show their reaction to what's happening. And like, oh my gosh, you know, what's the Alliance doing and such. And then we're going to show on the Alliance side so you can actually see what was going on with the Alliance side of things. You know, just so you can get kind of a decent idea. In fact, hold on a sec, there's another reason I'm debating this. Because it actually also changes the order of the bosses. Okay, yeah. So, we're going to do the Horde side first, and then I'm going to show you the Alliance side, and there's a couple of reasons for that, and you'll see why. So, when we return, we will be checking out the Battle of Dazar'alor on both sides, but Horde side first, and then the Alliance side. Stay tuned!